This is TWiT.
So mine will be kind of quick. I was like, man, I'm having a hard time coming up with something. And then I remembered I have the Shield TV at home. And on YouTube, there's a guy called ETA Prime. He's big in the emulation community. He does a lot of videos on how to get the most out of your emulators and emulators on different game emulators on different systems or whatever. I saw a video of his that said that the Shield TV is a really great system for emulating the Nintendo 64, which is interesting to me because the Nintendo 64 is a really tricky system to emulate. You get mixed results unless you're on like a computer or a laptop or whatever. If you try and do that with a Raspberry Pi, you're going to have horrible results on almost 100% of the games. So I installed the app, the open source app called Mupen64Plus FZ. It's a Nintendo 64 emulator. And I have it here on the phone, but it's really not that impressive or interesting to look at. I don't have any games or anything loaded in here, but you kind of get a sense of the customizability that you can get to here. But this is free. It's fully open source. You can fully customize all controllers, up to 4 controllers onto a single device, and they have different kind of profiles in here to match the different types of controllers that you might have and want to use. You can do different profiles, which is important because different games have different limitations when you're doing emulation of this type. And so you might have a game that emulates perfectly when you're in the accurate, Glide 64 profile. It might not work that well on another game. So you would go in here and you could, on a per game basis, select different emulation profiles and find the right one for it. What else? Save states automatically within games. So when you exit a game, it automatically saves your position in that game, whether it had a save state option or not. And a whole lot more, display tweaks depending on the screen that you're using. If you want it to default to a different resolution, you might be able to improve your performance that way. A number of different things, but ultimately I'm bringing it in here not necessarily because I've tested it on the phone, because I have not, but because using this app on the Shield TV, I was able to play Super Mario 64 just as my basic. Yeah, I'd say skip about halfway through this video and you'll get to it. Get to kind of some of the games running on here. But it works really well. Using the Shield TV, like the emulation that you get out of the 64 games, the few that I've tried, was way better than anything I ever got on the Raspberry Pi, which, yes, I realize the Raspberry Pi is pretty low powered, but it's worth knowing about. It's a good emulator. It is open source, completely free, and you should check it out. I think you can find it right in the Play Store on Android TV, if I'm not mistaken. If not, you might not have to download it and sideload it, but I think, if I remember correctly, I just got to it straight through the Play Store. And it's really nice, too, because it has a nice kind of gallery. If you have a couple of games in there, everything looks really nice. It imports into the Android TV main screen as far as your recently played games. They just appear in that main screen. So it's really cool. Mupen64Plus FZ. And if you're interested in setting something like this up, I highly recommend checking out ETA Prime on YouTube. He does some really great videos on this topic and can really kind of demystify some of the stuff. Because as you can see, it can kind of get a little in the weeds sometimes. There's a touchscreen support, so you can have the buttons overlay on the screen when you're playing a game. A lot of cool stuff. Mupen64Plus FZ.
Jason, question.
Yeah.
Does it support hardware keyboard buttons?
That is a good question. Let's see here. I would imagine. You know what? I would honestly. I would guess yes, because when I've plugged it into the Shield TV, I know that you can control the game with a plugged-in keyboard through the Shield TV.
Right.
I'm guessing they would use kind of the same approach. But that's a really great use case, right? Like having a hardware keyboard like you have on the Pro 1 for emulation. That's awesome. You want that
we've had good success trying some out.
We've done that, Jason. So
not this one.
Okay. Yeah. That's a great use case. And I remember actually with the Droid trying to set that up, although the Droid keys were so flat. Like they were just like paper flat, so it was really hard to get any sort of tactile.
We're going to start having a Mario Kart competition in our office.
See, you demonstrate that, and then the niche market becomes a little wider, because then the emulation set is like, oh, now that's why I have to have that phone.